Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we are going to be digging into native apps, which native apps have gotten a little bit of love on this show, but we haven't really given them their proper due, and a lot of that is because, to be quite honest, I'm intimidated by them. So we're going to be learning today about how to build native apps, but I don't necessarily want to learn all of the ins and outs of building for each platform, and so that's always led me to reaching for something that will kind of hit all the native platforms for me. And there's an exciting new one that I've just learned about. They just had a big release, and to teach us all about it is Atila Fassina. Please welcome to the stage. Attila, how you doing?
Hello. Oh, good. And then getting better by the second. Oh,
Well, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining today. I have a lot of questions about what you're working on, but before we talk about that, let's talk about you. So could you give everybody who's watching a bit of a background on yourself?
sure. So first of all, I'm a longtime fan of this show, so I'm kind of pinching myself a little bit that I'm here. As I mentioned before earlier, it's kind of a career landmark for me to be here. So yeah, that's awesome. So I'm a developer originally from Brazil, but I live in Germany, and today, I work as DevRel lead in a company called Crab Nebula, which happens to be a company created by the founders of Tauri. And we do a bunch of stuff with the ecosystem. We are a community partner, and we're a Tauri community partner. And so I, myself, and a few other of my colleagues are part of the Tauri working group. I already see a bunch of them there in the chat. So thanks for coming. And besides that, I also work in the Solid.js team. So I work in the DX team more specifically, and I do love playing with all these frameworks. I like. I have my favorites, as no secret to anyone, but I like playing with all of them, and that's one of the things that drew me towards Story is that it is completely agnostic from the front end perspective, so you can play with
Mm,
whatever you want, and yeah, that's pretty much me. And I talk a lot if you
awesome.
let me.
Good. We're gonna get along great then. So let's talk a little bit about Tori. And for somebody like me who's really only ever seen the name, and maybe heard like a headline, can you give us the high level on what is Tori and what problem is it solving?
Yeah. So Tauri is a Rust-based framework for building native applications. So that already upfront kind of intimidates people because I say Rust and I say native, and I feel just the same. I felt just the same way as you just mentioned in the opening. So the reason why Tauri to me is so special is because it actually has two fundamental pieces. One we call Tau, which is the window management system. It's essentially your backend that's in Rust. That's the part that connects with the native layer. And it has a very thin wrapper on top of the native web view of whatever system you're running on.
Okay.
So that's called RAI. So that's why Tauri. That's how it comes.
Okay.
And so both of them are built with Rust. So that makes the IPC, the connection with the native layer, very fast and good. And also, it allows us to have um, security by default. So Tauri
Mm,
is a framework built from the perspective of having something safe and efficient from the get-go. And we can go a little bit deeper into that, especially with the V2 launch. Things got a little bit safer,
cool.
even if you compare with the V1. And yeah, as you mentioned in the beginning, and I just said, yesterday we launched the V2. So until V1, it was possible to build for the three desktop platforms, so Linux, Windows, and macOS.
Hmm.
And after V2, we added Android and iOS to the mix.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. Um, so let's talk a little bit about. I think maybe the biggest question that I always have when I start talking about web apps versus native apps versus desktop versus mobile is how, like, why would somebody build a native app, right? When you can build a web app that'll play on any browser, right? It it always sounds in this is, this is kind of me teeing you up to tell me why I'm wrong. It always sounds to me like when you are looking at building an app, that the highest leverage thing to do is build it once for the web, because then it's sort of one code base that I know is more or less the same on every device, whether it's a computer, a mobile phone, or a TV, right? Whereas I always like, what intimidates me about native apps is that, okay, so I'm going to have to build an iOS version, but then if I want to use it on Apple TV, it's an Apple TV version, and then if I want to use it on an Android phone, it's an Android version. If I want a desktop app, now I'm looking at like 5, 6, 7 different varieties of app, and I'm still going to have to build a website. So what's like, how do you think about this? Where would you make the decision to take on, or is it extra work? Like, am I wrong? Is it not extra work?
Oh, I think that there are a few things that needs to be taken in consideration if you decide to build a native app to an app that you already got, which is if you're going to be you need to leverage like using the native language per se, and that would mean a lot of things. That would mean a bigger team. That would mean a bigger effort to keep feature parity and so on. We all been there. Like if we worked in like companies that had this offering, and I think what Tauri allows you to do, and it's something that we do at Crab Nebula actually, is from that very same code base you can build for all the platforms, and that means we have right now an app called Crab Nebula DevTools that the open source version is a solid app. It's an SPA we deploy to Netlify, works great on the browser. But then we want to have some functionality that connects to the native APIs. So it uses your system, or it works also as a Tauri plugin in this case. So for that, you need a Tauri app in this case. You can use like the system tray. You can use a safer IPC. Like we're going to see when we get to the coding, we're going to see that like Tauri even exposes like an HTTP client where you can use fetch calls that go through Rust, which
Okay.
makes it a little bit safer than throwing it from the web view in this case. So there are a few things that becoming like Tauri makes it easy and allow you to do that in this
Cool.
case.
Very cool. And so I guess then if I rephrase that, what the incentive would be is if the thing I want to build needs to take advantage of like the native capabilities that I don't get access to from the web, or if I want to make sure that my app has really good security and doesn't have any like exposure to sort of like web-based attack vectors, then
Yeah,
the app
and
approach
on
is better.
on on top of that, you also have like the being able to install it in your system. Sometimes it's good, like if you have an app like Spotify or something like that, you might want to use. And I think yeah, that's a good rule of thumb in this case. Um, yeah.
Okay, I get it. And so I think you've already said this, but Fuzzy's asking, is it still a web view?
Yes, it is a web view.
It is still a web view.
Yeah, it is like a web view. The difference is from Tauri with the other, like most of the other hybrid apps, is that it doesn't ship the web view. So in this case,
Oh.
so that makes a tons of difference in terms of bundle size, in terms of performance, and also in security. Because if you're bundling your like whole Chrome with your app, then suddenly your app is the size of the entire Chrome plus your whatever code you write, and that leads you to like a hello world being like 200 megabytes or something like that. And with Tauri, because we're using the native web view, it's just a very thin wrapper, so your code is basically the size of the images. Most cases the image is like bigger than your code
Oh.
in this sense.
Yeah,
So a
yeah,
hello
yeah.
world can go like to 200 kilobytes, 300 kilobytes in this case. because it's
Awesome.
the size of the Rust binaries in your JavaScript bundle. On top
Okay.
of that, there's some stuff about security we can talk about if you want, in terms of inheriting security updates from the system versus needing to rebundle your whole app to ship the updated Chrome image.
Oh, that's it. Oh, that's actually a really interesting point. So
Yeah.
when I download like the latest update to my OS, it's like the native apps are all accessing native APIs. But if I'm exporting a bundled web view, that code isn't touched by anything native. So the only way I would get updates is if I were to install the latest version of that that
Absolutely.
app specifically.
And then what happens is that once a CVE goes public, like a report of a found vulnerability, most of the exploits happen between the window of a 0 day and a 1 day.
Mm,
So if your user is downloading the update to the system, that means your app remains secure. But if you need to rebundle your whole app, then it depends on you inheriting the update, you shipping the app, and your user finding the update.
right. No, that okay. I'm seeing some I'm seeing some good reasoning here. There's I'm starting to see why this is compelling. Um, so then let's talk about a couple of the things that then further freak me out, which is one, writing native code has always like I have no doubt I can learn it. I just have no time to learn it, right? And then Rust has been the same. I think Rust is so cool. Every time I've looked at it, I've thought like, dang, this is really great. And also, I have no time to learn it. And so far, I haven't had like a compelling enough reason to really dig in and do a project with it. So with Tauri, am I? You mentioned that there's like the sort of thin Rust wrapper around native APIs, which I think means I don't have to write any native code.
No, you
Um,
don't.
how much Rust code do I have to write to build an app with Tauri?
So I've given already workshops where 10 to 20 people have shipped an app in about 2 or 3 hours, from zero to shipping an app, and we haven't written a single line of code of Rust. Um,
And what
so
are you writing?
we're writing JavaScript and TypeScript from the web view. So what happens is that
Okay.
Rust takes all the native APIs and expose it to TypeScript. So what you can do is just like import whatever call you want and invoke Rust code from the TypeScript. So it's essentially just a promise. It's like any fetch call you're
Mm,
doing. And what's going to happen is that Tauri under the hood is going to go through the IPC bridge, runs the native code, and brings you back the response that you need.
got it. Okay. All right. You're getting me really interested in this. Let's see. I'm not seeing any other. There's a couple questions in the chat. Let me see. Danilo asks, is it WebView 2 or WebView? I'm not even sure what that question means. That's how much I know about native apps.
Yeah. So the web view that we're using, it depends on the system. I'm not entirely sure what he means either. So in this case,
Okay.
what we're
Okay.
using is the native web view from the system. So we have this Rust crate called Rye, which is wrapping it, and in if you're in macOS, it's going to run on essentially it work behaves as Safari. If you're on Windows, it's going to be Edge or Chromium in this case, and so on. And Linux is the Web 2 GTK so far. Oh, Amir is right here for the rescue, so he's a member of the Tauri working group, and that's what he's saying.
Okay. So it is WebView 2 on Windows.
WebView 2. Yeah.
Okay. And then there was a question about whether or not it works for Ubuntu snaps, which again, not in this world. I have no idea what those are.
Um, I I'm not entirely sure about that one as well, but yes, I would say it works because we have so far we have shipped to desktop since
Hmm.
like V1, and the only small issues that we get are a little bit quirks with the Web2 GTK.
Okay.
Um,
Cool.
So Jacob is mentioning about some compatibilities on the Linux ecosystem. He's also a member of the Tauri working group. As I said, there's a bunch of us around here. And when it as I haven't mentioned yet, but I don't fancy myself as a Rust developer. I still get that adrenaline rush every time the compiler doesn't slaps me on the face. So every time my Rust code compiles, I'm happy. So that's why they're here to rescue me on the more Rust specific issues.
Got it. And then a good question from Jose here. So we don't need to write Rust to make a Tauri app. Are there situations where we would want to, like if we wanted to build advanced functionality or something, we end up writing Rust? Or is it more that like the entire goal is to only write TypeScript?
So the native APIs are going to be exposed to you in JavaScript, and you're just as good using them from the JavaScript or from Rust. But then if you want to leverage Rust to do some more complex commands, yes, then you can jump into Rust and you can write your own logic. I have gone through it. I created a little app that was supposed to scan all my projects and measure the size of my node modules and offer me to delete them. And as you can imagine, like recursively going through node modules is a little bit too heavy for JavaScript.
Sure.
So we did that from the Rust side on top. But for this, we also have, even if you're like more a JavaScript developer as I am, there is a crate called Tauri Specta. And it's actually come from Specta as well. And then there's a wrapper for Tauri, which takes your Rust commands and creates TypeScript bindings for it. So once you write your command on Rust side, you can expose it again as an invocation method to your JavaScript side, and you have the types that are required to. So in this case, I'm essentially really using Tauri to leverage my TypeScript into learning Rust, because I write some code in Rust and then I see the types that are there, if they make sense or not.
Got it. Cool. All right. And then, Snap is a package manager for Ubuntu. Okay. Got it. Cool. All right. So I have a bunch more questions, but it would probably be easier to like look at code than to keep talking about these in the abstract. So why don't I take us over into the pair programming mode here. I'm going to turn on a couple banners. First and foremost, this show, like every show, is being live captioned. We've got Amanda here from Whitecoat Captioning. Thank you so much, Amanda, for being here. And thank you to Netlify for sponsoring that. Also, today, Atila and I are using Tuple so that we can pair program, basically. He's got access to draw on the screen, to copy paste, to send me links, to do a bunch of stuff that just makes pair programming a little bit easier, to do the confetti, which I love. And that is all thanks to Tuple sponsoring the show. So thank you, Tuple, for making this show even more possible. We are talking today to Atila. Make sure you go and get on that Twitter list, y'all. Here, I'm gonna also you know what I should be doing? I don't know why I don't do this. I should throw these links in here so that people can go check out these wonderful sponsors that we have. And click that link and tell them I sent you. Give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. We're talking about Tauri today, so let's make sure we drop a Tauri link in here, and that's gonna be the links I got. So Atila, if I want to get started, what should I do first?
So the first thing you need to have is Rust. It's a requirement to compile. So I don't know if you already have in your system.
What a great question. How does one? I'm in the wrong.
So Rust lang, there is a.
Am I not in? Sorry, give me just a second to switch profiles. There we go. Video. There we go. Now we can actually read. So, sorry, what was the command to check Rust?
So in this case, can you just cargo -v? Let's see if you have it. Nope.
Oh, okay.
So let me find you the link.
We can try the thing. You can just send me a link.
Yeah. So Rust lang. So to install Rust, let's see. How do I do the Beam.
There,
Yeah.
there it is.
Does
Okay,
that work?
so that works.
So
I could have sworn I had Rust, but all right, this is gonna be fine. So I just copy paste this.
yeah,
Okay.
you know, always trust like crow commands from the internet,
Proceed
right?
with standard. There we go. Doing all the things, and hopefully this goes nice and fast for us.
Yeah. So usually, like as a non-Rust developer, if you're going to use if not there.
It's probably I gotta like resource my. What's going on? There we go. This is. I bet. This is usually. Oh wait. To configure your current shell, you need to source the corresponding end file over home by running one of the following. Do I just do this? Hey, there it is.
Hey, okay.
When in doubt, read the instructions.
Awesome. Okay. So let's say you're JavaScript developer, you just picked up, you had Rust in your code for a while, you can just do Rust up, and that will check if you have the latest version. No, it's all together.
Got it.
Rust up as a single word.
So this says
Yeah,
1.27.1,
yeah,
which
you just
ideally
installed, so
should
it's
be
pretty new.
first. Should be correct.
So that's it. That's all you need to get started with Tauri. So now you can just, as any other like JavaScript app or something like that, you can just npm create Tauri or
nice.
pnpm create or something like that, and that's gonna offer you a few templates.
Okay.
But I have that repository that I suggested that we used to start,
Yes.
which is more or less the same setup that you would get from the template, but then it's something we're going to be working on top of, and has a little bit of more front-end code, because the point of this stream is Tauri. It's not Solid.js. You already had Ryan Carniaro there like a week ago or so why would I be here talking about Solid, right? So yeah, and now we can just have a look at the directory structure, I guess, right?
Yeah, why don't I clone this down? I will, let's see. I'm going to GitHub, what's the easiest? You added me to this one, right? So I'm just going to create a new directory. And what was it? You were at Atila Fassina. And then I can GitHub repo clone.
Awesome. So while you're doing this, there is a question from the chat about running different languages. Where was it? Yeah, so Danilo asked, can we use other programming languages like Python? Yes. So you can, Tauri has a way of having embedded binaries, so you can bring other runtimes if you see fit. So
Got it.
what's happened in this situation is that we have some recommended extensions. One of them is the Tauri extension. The other one is suggesting you is the Rust Analyzer. So it's going to give you some nice, as you can see, it's running wild over there, indexing your whole thing. And I think in this repository, I also added a Tailwind, but it seems you already had it.
No, it definitely installed that for me. There it is.
Yeah, so just because it was easier for me to get some styles happening there, but it's like front-end wise, it's a mix of stuff that I copied and used in this case.
Got it.
So looking at the architecture, if you ignore that source story over there, like let me go to graffiti mode, and yeah, so if you ignore the source story there, it's basically a Vite app in this case. So this has the Vite config, it has the Tailwind, and then inside source, you're going to see it's like a single page application, as most you already know.
And can we use any web framework with this?
Any web framework, vanilla JS. You can even not use a
Cool.
framework at all.
Okay.
So yeah, even jQuery is allowed here. Anything that runs in a browser is gonna work there.
Got it. Okay, and so we've got like looking at the looking at the app here. We're
Yeah.
pulling in solid JS stuff, and then I see this invoke command.
Yeah.
So let's poke around a little bit. We've got an app. The app looks pretty straightforward. My TypeScript config doesn't like it. Oh, probably because I haven't installed.
It didn't install, yeah. So if you run npm install, I think yeah.
I don't have pnpm. One of
That's
these days I
fine.
should have
It's
somebody
gonna
teach
work
me
with-
about it because like
Yeah,
I'm bearing too much psychological damage from making the switch to Yarn back in the day. And
Ah,
now
yeah.
Now I don't want anybody to change my stuff. Okay. Okay, so we've got our app here now that we've got the dependencies. It's not yelling at me as much.
Yeah.
And so we can talk a little bit about what that does later. But where did this invoke come from?
So the invoke comes from the Tauri JavaScript package, and it's essentially like that line in the line 20, like right below here. So here you're calling the invoke, and that's the name of a function that's of a command from Rust. So what this is doing, the invoke is going through from JavaScript, crossing the IPC bridge, and hitting your native code in this case. So
Very cool.
now if you go in npm run Tauri dev, this is going to start your Vite local server, and it's going to start the Tauri app.
You said it was npm Tauri
Run
dev?
Tauri dev, yes. So Tauri is the namespace within the npm script, and is so just a space, yeah, and dev.
Oh, hold on.
So
Wait, what? I'm going on a rabbit hole. Hold for 1 second.
So what happens is
How
that
did you
Tauri, the
namespace it?
CLI, the Tauri CLI exists in your node modules. So what we're doing,
I understand. Okay, so you're letting, like, we use npm run Tauri to escape into the CLI so that we can then do whatever the CLI commands are.
exactly.
Ah, cool. That's something I've seen done before and I hadn't really thought about it, but that's super clever.
So now naturally, like the first time you compile Rust, it takes a little while because it's downloading all your dependencies. It's like from the JavaScript perspective is like npm install, npm start all together.
Got it. Okay.
And then once it happens, it's going to pop up the desktop app and on dev mode. So while this is happening, if you can open in source story the Tauri config. Oh, there you go.
That happened.
So this is our app.
Delightfully fast.
So now if you type your name there and click on the greet button.
Cool.
So this was what the invoke call did. It went all the way through Rust and responded with something from you. So as you can see, we're already running Rust commands without even opening the Rust file.
Okay.
And that's essentially all you get when you run pnpm or npm create Tauri app. That's what you get. It doesn't look like this, but it's like you come with this command already written for you and this greet button. That's what we get. Cool. So
Okay.
now I guess we can jump into the code and go into what source story has for us.
Yeah. Let's I'm just going to close this down.
Yeah. So
all right, so I'm closing the source and I'm opening source Tauri.
Yeah, so the first one, the most important one, I think, is the Tauri config JSON. So we can understand what's happening. So you can see here, there's a before dev command. So this happens when we run PNP, when we call Tauri dev, it's going to tell, oh, first you need to build my front end. And then we are locking Vite into this dev URL. So it's locking the local host because that's the local host that Tauri is going to be looking at. So what we want is in our Vite config, we're actually saying if that port is taken, you don't pick the next one. You just fail because I need to change the config. Otherwise, it's not going to be
Oh,
opening the right app in my web view.
gotcha.
So once this is done, then it kickstarts your development front end configuration, and then it runs the cargo build and stuff under the hoods for us to know for us to do the things we need to do.
Got it. Okay.
Besides that, there are a few things that we can do, like we have this identifier,
Sorry,
which
I'm
is
moving around
something
too much.
every app needs a unique identifier. And it's just this reverse domain notation. But it can be like anything. It's similar to what you're going to need if you decide to ship your app to a store in the end. That's like a whole other can of worms. We don't need to open that box yet. Um, and then you have some nice things that you can control on your app. So you can define the size of the window, you can define the title of the window. At this very point, you can even pass like a remote window or something, even pass a user agent.
Okay.
There, you can pass a content security policy. And then there are a few quirks and stuff that I skipped for us.
Okay.
So this is something that doesn't come from the default, like the create updated artifacts and the macOS bundle configuration. So this one is something for once we decide to have an auto updater.
Okay.
Um, and the signing identity is that ad hoc signing, because like to ship a native app on Apple or on Play Store, you need to have a developer certificate account or something like that. And they charge about 100 euros or dollars per year.
Okay.
And you don't want that if you're just doing like a hobby project or if you're just figuring the stuff out. So what I'm doing here, I'm passing this little dash, which means ad hoc signing, which is that thing that once you click to open the app, Apple is going to say, "Oh, that's kind of weird. Maybe you should not open that. It could be a malware," and then you just alt command click and then it opens.
Got it. Yeah.
Awesome. So then after that, you have the icons that I have some surprises for you on this one in a minute. And then the updater configuration for you to push updates to your thing. So this one, I got a little bit set up here because I'm using, deploy this app. So this app is already built and shipped
Oh.
on Crab Nebula, which is the company that I work for. And we create an endpoint for auto updates. So I'm using that one just so you can see working. And
Yeah.
I'm passing the public key that I already did because I don't want to make you like create the keys and then copy the keys and there's a private one, there's a password, and so on. I didn't want to make you go through this while live streaming. It's always
And
complicated.
this is all stuff that like we just go to the Tory docs and we just follow the steps to get these keys and stuff.
We can run the commands right now and you see how they go. If you just pop the terminal, I can show you. So the first one, before you stop the, okay, you already saw.
I
So the
didn't stop
first
it.
one,
I opened another terminal.
Awesome. So the first one that we can do, if you look at your Docker, you have your icon doesn't look like your brand. If you look at your app that's running right there in your
Oh,
so
right.
there's a
Yeah.
Tauri one, right? So what we can do is use the Tauri CLI, so npm run Tauri, and okay, now I can see. Just took a little bit of lag. So you can run the Tauri and its icon, and you can pass dot slash and then app dash icon dot png.
What just happened?
I didn't click. Sorry.
Oh, that was weird. I don't know why I did that. npm run Tory icon
And then it's dot slash. It's on the root of your project. So app icon. That one.
appicon.png.
Yeah. So this I have it saved for you, and what Tor is going to do from any square image is going to create all your icons for you
Now
on
it's
that one.
rebuilding automatically.
When I was trying this one, I had to do a cargo clean. So let's see how it goes in your. Yeah.
Look at
So
it
you have the
go.
so now you have an icon, and if you go into like source story icons, you're going to see it created all the formats, all the sizes you needed to do. So yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. So we get like all of them.
So that's the first thing we gotta do. And in the same way, the CLI has a helper for you to sign your app. Because what we did for the updater, we have a pub key and we also have a code signing key, which is a private key. So if you do Tauri app, this one's a little bit more complicated. It's Tauri signer. So yeah. And then you have to do generate and then minus W. So that's a write flag.
Okay.
And then you pass the path you want to. So you can just put it in a temp folder or something like that. And then you just pass a name dot key.
Oh,
Like, no, you need to put like the name of the
name.
file, like slash. No, just any name. So slash JSON dot key. Yeah, something like that.
Like, okay, like this.
Yeah, and now this is going to create the pub key, the private key, and it's gonna ask you
Workspace
what?
is found. It's treating -w as
As a workspace?
workspace.
Oh, so I does npm need the double dash before the passing the flag?
It
So
might.
command?
Let's try.
Yeah, that's it. So
Got it.
now it asks you for a password, which yeah, you put it twice, and then it creates the files for you. If you scroll up, you're going to see that there's a path where the files got created, and it's recommending you down below that you need to pass those to your build. So Tauri signing private key and the Tauri signing private key pass. Those are the things that I did before the stream, and I
Got it.
put those in the repository as my secrets. So
Got it.
now, whenever our CLI is going to run Tauri build, this is passing straight on because I didn't want you to copy this private key and so on.
Right.
during the
No,
stream.
I think that's the right choice because I am notorious for leaking secrets. But so here's the key. Here's the public one.
Yeah,
And so these I won't actually use these, so I can just delete this.
exactly.
Okay. So cool. All right. So this is all I'm following. It's making sense. I copy pasted into there is why that went wrong. Cool. So we've got our app running. We've got an icon. We're calling into Rust, and I have not seen anything that doesn't look like a web app to me yet, which is pretty exciting.
Yep. So right now, what we can do is basically bring your episode list, right? So we can just uncomment that line 14 with the schedule.
14. Got it.
Yeah. And then on top of that, we have get schedule that I already written.
Okay.
And it's fetching the API from your website. And now if you go below, there is a suspense call in your JSX that I commented out. So basically this is
Oops.
this has a suspense from your gets from your API request.
Why is it not working? Uncomment. Oh, it's because it just doesn't like this for some reason. Fine, I'll do it the hard way. Thanks for all your help.
Awesome.
And then, okay, so this is going well. It doesn't need. It's missing the episode.
This episode preview is just a component that you need to import. It's already created.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there
so
it is.
Now this is a regular fetch call coming straight from your browser. And if you run Tauri, you should be able to see the list that's coming back from this schedule API endpoint. There you go.
There it is. Okay. Already very okay. So what we're doing here is we're making a call, and this is through the web view.
Yeah.
Okay. And that means that because we're using suspense, whenever somebody loads this, it's making the request as they load the page, just like it would on a regular website.
Exactly.
And so from a like native app standpoint, we're we're basically giving somebody like a button they can push to check the current schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
And right now, because it's a native app, it's a web app. You can just like inspect source. So if you right click on dev mode, the dev tools is available. So if you right click there, you can even pop up the hood. You can mess up with it, and you can file requests from there.
Cool. Okay. All right.
Okay. So now what we can do is, I don't know, let's push this request to go through Rust maybe.
Yeah.
So in this case, what we can do is stop the server. And I know you like Astro, so I think you're gonna like this one. You can run npm run Tauri, and you can say add HTTP.
I do like that.
So
Okay.
what this is
So
going to do is it's going to add your dependency to the cargo toml, and it's going to add a dependency to your package JSON. And if you open up the source story, if you run on lib, um, where is it? Where is it? So yeah, on the source first, and then lib, you're going to see here like this is like what makes Tauri tick. So if you can see, here's our Tauri command that we ran in the first time.
all right. So this is greet.
Yeah, and then we are passing it down like to the invoke handlers over here. So we're passing greet over there.
Got it.
And
And now
now
I
if you
see
look,
here's the HTTP.
we are it already appended the plugin for you. So as
Cool.
long as you're
Okay.
using the native APIs, you don't need to touch Rust because you just run that thing for any official plugin, and it's just gonna work.
Cool. Somebody's asking, will the WebView open Safari Dev Tools on Mac?
Yeah,
It will. Yes.
yeah.
Very cool.
So awesome. So that's it. So now we have the HTTP. The other thing that's going to happen right now, that's going to break us, is if you look at here, we have now a capabilities folder.
Capabilities.
Yeah, right
Default.
here.
Sorry, I keep
Yeah,
scrolling before
exactly.
you
Yeah,
write.
no worries, no worries. So now we got like the capabilities, the permissions. So we're saying the default permissions for the HTTP. You see, we didn't allow any URL whatsoever. So now if we just
Oh,
trigger it in on our fetch, this thing is not gonna let the request go through, um, right? Because we need to allow list the URLs.
oh, right. Okay, and so this is part of that security posture where like you can't just make arbitrary calls.
Yeah,
You have to, as a developer, say I am allowed to call this endpoint.
yeah. So you can, for example, if you try to add to this array, you're going to see that there is some autocomplete over here, and it's going to suggest you a few of them. Yeah, there you go. So these are all the permissions that are they're there for you. As you can see, since in V2 we also added deny. So not only you need to allow list the ones you want to use, you can also explicitly deny some of them. So like if
Okay.
your app is going to do something with the file system, you can explicitly say no, I don't allow this app to delete files. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah, the file system it's the most tricky one because even like that you can also restrain the scope of it. So you can say, oh, you're not allowed to go. So the file system is one that we're particularly careful with.
Mm,
But yeah, so
this is cool.
do you want to see how the error message looks like when we do something we can't do on
Yeah,
Tauri?
let's do it.
So let's
So
go back to your JavaScript.
back to
And
my JavaScript to here.
the only thing we need to do now is import fetch from something else on our get schedule. So I think if you command click, it should offer you something. Otherwise, we can type. Nope.
Doesn't look like it's got one of those.
Okay. So sometimes VS Code takes a little longer to.
Oh wait, that's not what I meant to do.
So
Yeah, I
what?
think it's believing
So
this is from MDN.
yeah, so it's a it's a named import. Can I, yeah. So from at Tauri -apps.
Is it this
Yeah,
plugin
exactly this one.
HTTP? Okay,
Perfect.
perfect. Okay, so
So
we changed it, and now this is from
syntax is
Tauri.
absolutely the same.
Cool. Okay, so that no functional or like no code changes.
Nope. And now
So I'll
if you
run
run
dev
it
again.
again, we are not gonna have a list. As you can see, it's recompiling because we added something to the cargo toml. So every time you change something in the cargo toml, it needs to recompile things again.
Okay, and we can see that it's broken.
Yep. So this thing is never gonna. So if you pop the DevTools and check the logs, you see here. So promise rejection because we didn't pass the URL to the scope, and then
URL.
it suggests you.
Oh boy, accidentally clicking stuff. URL not
So
allowed on the configured scope.
URL not allowed, and these are probably the permissions that you want.
Got it. Oh, that's an internal dev tool. So I'm
Yeah. So that one is also that's something else.
got
But
it. Okay.
it does suggest you the scope and so on. So now we can go back to. You don't need to stop the server or anything. We can just go back to the capabilities.
Okay. So back to capabilities.
And then if you add, now we're going to, instead of creating adding a string, we can add an object. And I think this one I can try to pass over to you.
Oh yeah, you can. You have the ability to just copy paste if you click into the
Okay.
window.
Oh wait, I need to switch this and then enable keyboard. Okay, let's try again. There you go.
Okay, I might have
So
just double wrapped that. I did. So let me
yeah.
get rid of my extra wrapping. Okay, so now we're saying for the identifier HTTP default, we want to allow anything from my API.
Yeah,
And
and
there it
then
goes, it
because we
works.
changed capabilities, it just the server stopped, recompiled, and now things work. And now this request is going through Rust.
Got it. And then Amir says the other error is because core default is not here.
Yeah.
And that should solve that DevTools problem.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we will do that. And then this should open up again. It opened in my wrong browser or my wrong monitor, but here it is. It's working. And if I pop open the DevTools again, we got
No
nothing.
errors.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
I mean, this is great. This is I'm feeling good about this because we haven't done anything that confuses me yet.
So we can try now to send a native push notification. How do you feel about that?
I feel very good about that. I've been thinking about ways that I should try to be more annoying. And I think having a way to send everybody push notifications is that'd work nicely.
Yeah, awesome. So let's do that. So if you go back to your JavaScript file, I wrote some in the helpers. You see there is a little notification TS waiting
Got
for
it.
you. So we can go about see how it goes. You see there's already some things that we're importing, and it has this asynchronous function that's JavaScript. You can just, the way I wrote this is that you can just put it on whatever framework you have, and this should work. And then what we're going to do is just do the wirings whenever our app, solid app starts. But it's going to check if there is a permission to send notifications from that app. If the permission is granted, then it's going to send a notification.
Right.
And if the permission is not granted, we can check if it is. So if there's no permission, we ask for permission, and then once it's granted, we send it. If it already has permission, we say, "Oh, we already got it," so then we send it anyways. And
Got
if
it.
the permission is denied, we just do nothing because we don't want to be that person, right?
Yeah. And so with this one, we're exporting a function. So then if I come out here and I say, we could probably just attach it here so that I can do it on a click. Or it was handle notifications.
Yeah. So yeah, it's handle notification. Yeah, sorry. So this is
Probably
just
want
like
to.
a yeah.
So now when I click that greet button, we should get a greeting and also it should send a notification, right?
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know if you have notifications allowed for your terminal that's running Tauri. So usually the way that I do for testing this is actually building it. So that actually we can see how it goes about building your app in this case.
Okay.
So now you can just pop the hood, stop this, and
Tokyo
instead
worker
of
panicked.
oh, we didn't add the notification crate. That's something that I always
Oh,
forget.
right. Okay.
Um,
And that crate is the one that when we where was it? In notifications.
so that is the JavaScript. The JavaScript dependency. What we need to do is actually let Rust knows that it should have it because it's not in
Okay.
your cargo toml. So you need to do the npm run Tauri add notification.
Oh, easy peasy.
So again, it installs the plugin, it has the capabilities. So now let's go to the capabilities and check if something changed.
Down to capabilities. I need more window space. Capabilities.
There you go.
And
So as you can see down there, it appended for you the notification default.
got it. Okay. So then
And
if I make an educated guess here, I'm going to do run Tory build.
go for it.
Okay. And so this is going to kind of bundle everything. We're compiling, and we would have to compile anyways because we just added a new crate. If you've been running dev and you don't add new crates in between dev, does it have to do does it compile again when you build?
Yeah, that's something that we haven't talked about, but usually what you want to do is have a release profile defined in your cargo toml so you can have a smaller bundle because by default, if you build the app, Rust is going to make a bunch of optimizations to get you like a decent stack trace and so on if things panics, but you don't need to have that in a production app.
True.
And also, we can even instruct the Rust compiler to do things more sequentially, so that optimizes more the connection between the dependencies. So that takes a little bit more time to build than you would want in dev mode, but it leads to a smaller bundle in most cases.
Got it. Okay.
And all that is available in the tar docs. It's just like a group of six keys that you can pass, configuration keys that you can pass to the toml, and it's gonna work in pretty much every app.
Got it. Okay. Looks like we're getting pretty close here. Ooh, it's
Yeah.
neat that
So
it's
now,
making a
and now,
DMG.
there you go. So now you have your app, and now if you
Neat.
open it up, you
Neat. Okay, so now if I greet, we should get our notification.
did you get it? Oh, there you go.
We allow. And then let's see. So that
Well, it went.
try that again
So
now
the
that I've granted the permissions. Am I in do not disturb?
yeah, could.
How do I?
Oh,
what is the? I forget how this all works. Um,
Oh,
hey, there
there
it
it
is.
is.
Look at them go.
Nice, nice.
Cool.
So you
Extremely
see,
cool.
no Rust involved, and that's the kind of stuff that we can do. So now we already talked about some of the two native APIs. We talked about signing the code and the ad hoc signing. So, but so far, what the one of the biggest issues about using the native binaries in the native web view is that you have to have a VM if you want to distribute to other platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing that I wanted to show you is that GitHub action that I mentioned to you that I'm terrible writing YAML, but I got one about with a bunch of typos right now. Um, so this release YAML over here is actually going on. It works on this patch, and what it's doing, it's creating a matrix, and then you can build for desktop, Windows, and Mac Silicon. So if you scroll down, I'm pushing it to Crab Nebula. So I created an org. I have an org there, and I'm pushing your app over there. And then what happens is that I draft a release, and if you just keep scrolling down a little bit, um, then we have like that matrix. So you can see the draft runs on the matrix, and if it doesn't fail in this one, it fails on the build. But then I have all the images.
Mm-hmm.
And for macOS and Linux, I'm building on the latest. For Ubuntu V2, we recommend 22.404. And if you just keep going, we then install, in this case, pnpm, and we have all the cache setup, and then we install the Rust toolchain. In this case, I'm not using cache for some reason. And then once you're on Linux, you need to install the web view that we're going to use
Oh,
and
right,
make sure
because
the
you get
system is up to
the
date.
if, the
Yeah,
conditionals there. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm definitely not a GitHub Actions expert, but
yeah.
whenever I see these, I'm like, oh, this is clever, and then I try to write one, and I'm like, I don't understand how any of this works.
So I'm right there with you. Like Jacob just had we had a very hard time writing a GitHub Actions from scratch on his live stream. But yeah, so I make all the typos, I make all indentation errors, and then like it's always death by a thousand cuts when I'm writing a YAML file by hand. But then again, this is the thing that starts making things interesting, where we can pass a target for the Tauri build, and then Tauri knows the what we want to build for. And here's the moment we're signing our code. So as you can see, those secrets are coming from the
And
GitHub
these are the keys
repository.
that I generated these, right? And
Yeah,
so if we were using mine, I would have had to go into GitHub and set up secrets.
exactly.
Got it.
And then once that is done, then it becomes your release part. So we have this Crab Nebula action
Hmm.
that just uses our CLI to push those binaries and those artifacts, and then publish the release to make it available to everyone.
This is extremely cool. Um, and so when, like, how does this work from a practical standpoint? Because you work at Crab Nebula, so it makes sense that you would release on the Crab Nebula cloud.
Yeah.
If I want to release on the Crab Nebula cloud, what does that mean for me as a uh, like an individual? Is there like a free tier? Is it where does it kind of what does it cost me if I want to publish my Tauri app?
So
I need my $100 a year Apple developer certificate.
Oh yeah. So you need if you're going to publish to the stores, then there is some stuff about like having the certificates. So I think Apple in Europe is at 99 euros a year.
Hmm.
I think Android for the Play Store has something very similar.
Okay,
I'm not entirely sure about the like how much it is right now.
sure.
And then Crab Nebula, we have a 2-week trial, and the the first fee is 750 right now on month, and then there is like a meter threshold, but it's pretty generous in the beginning.
Got it.
Oh, Android is 25. Amr just said.
So okay, so if I want to publish my app, it's $100 a year with Apple, $25 one time for Android. Have to check if there's anything for. I imagine there's not for Linux. That would feel very against the spirit of Linux.
Yeah.
And then you pay 750. And when you say 750, that's $7.50.
Uh, I'm
Or
counting in euros, but
$750.
yeah, it's pretty much one to
Seven,
one.
€7 50.
€7.50 per
Okay.
per month, and
Okay.
that allows you to do like a bunch of releases and the auto updater. So the biggest, like the releases in this case, is just for you to like version your stuff and make the binaries distributable. The auto updater, in my opinion, is the biggest game changer, but we didn't get to that part yet because like creating auto updater service is kind of annoying. We can go check the Tauri config and see what it would entail.
Okay.
If you want to. So it's source story.
And
Right
Tauri
here.
config, here it is.
Oh yeah. So if you see like endpoints, you have like it's connecting to our CDN. So what happens in this case is you have the org and the app number, and then you can see there is a target, an architecture, and the current version. So this means that every time you hit that endpoint, Tauri is going to replace those like template strings with the version when with the architecture your app is at and the current version of it. But also, you need to send a public key. So your service is going to be needs to be able to check the public key against the private key, and because you don't want any other app being able to like tap into that service or fetching updates and stuff like that. So once you send a version on the request parameters, your service is going to reply either with a JSON with the path of the update and so on, or with no, and then Tauri can then figure out if to ask if it's going to prompt the user for an update, or if it's going to automatically download and then refresh and so on.
Cool. Okay. So and what this like let's talk about what this means to make sure that I've got my head around it. So what this means is if I'm using Tauri to build my app, and then I set up the auto updater as I'm distributing through Crab Nebula, then when I make changes to my app, I don't have to wait for people to download the latest version of the app. They'll be getting that automatically through Crab Nebula, or maybe I'm misunderstanding.
So what's going to happen is that depending on how you write the logic, your app is going to hit that endpoint and automatically know if you have updates for your app. So if you can go to your JavaScript file again in that helper folder, there's an updater.ts. That's where I put some logic for us. So yes. So this is basically like if you're going to do like if you're going to use push updates in your Tauri app, that's more or less the logic you're going to write. So you have the updater crate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I understand. So what I'm doing then is I'm basically able to automatically show users that there's a new version and then prompt them to hit the button to update.
Yeah, and then with that,
Got it.
you can send like the release notes. You can send what is the version. So in this case, perhaps you can even add some other information on the release notes, and then if there's a security update, you can decide. Like Tauri allows you to have an API that silently updates and force refreshes the app. So if it is like a huge exploit, a huge leak, and you just fixed it, you can make, okay, I want everybody to get this update as soon as possible. Or if it is like just live quality feature, you can just prompt them and they download whenever they see fit. So
Got
these
it.
are the logic you have full control on. What Crab Nebula does is help you manage those releases, so you can purge release, you can do all the stuff that you can also do manually on other things, like essentially like a better UX in this case, and then it connects that to the auto updater, so you have the the whole like experience connected in this case. So it's kind of a serverless. It like the way I say to people when I'm out in conference and stuff, it's like Netlify but for packaged apps in this case. That's
Got
what
you.
we're aiming for.
Okay, I understand. I mean, this is cool. This is very cool, and I like I like that it's sort of stuff that I want from native apps. I like the idea of knowing that there's something new. You know, I know that my phone doesn't always download the latest version of things without me going into the app store and like checking for updates. So knowing that there's something available and not just waiting for whatever the next timeout is great. From the standpoint of like wanting to be able to access native features of the phone or the desktop or whatever device I'm on, that's also really interesting because there's stuff that I would be interested in doing to make optional for people. Like, for example, when I go live, it takes a while, if it ever updates, for like the Discord thing to time out and check the YouTube API and finally send the notification. A lot of times it'll be 20 minutes before people get the notification that we're live. And then, you know, like it would be neat if there was a native app that just could like buzz your phone and say, hey, it's about to start. If you wanted to watch this one's going. And I can think of a few things that are also cool. Like, you know, if you want to deep link into another app, some of them make that easy. Like you can, you know, deep link into Spotify or whatever. But native apps tend to feel better about moving between different parts of a phone or a device because they, you know, that's what it was designed to do. It's not the web sort of like hopping out of a web link and into another thing. So yeah, okay, you're kind of getting you're making a good case here for why there are solid reasons for reaching for a tool like this.
I mean, there's also like you can even go into like even deeper like native APIs. Like you can have like system tray, for example. You can have a tray icon that pops up and lets people know like you know that those next meeting stuff. You can say, Jason's about to go live. This kind of stuff. Let's run on the background. You can have like we have also like for mobile you have the NFC stuff, so you can be at a conference and just by NFC you can just tap someone and invite them for a calendar or something like that, and so on. People can send each other like their the stream that they want to watch and this kind of stuff. Ricardo is making because you mentioned solid, yeah.
But no, I like, yeah, I like that, and I think there's also, you know, there's a certain element of like fun, even if it's not necessarily the most practical thing, right? Where you can build an app that is just fun to play with. It's fun to use, and you know, I remember years and years ago, like when NFC was new, right? There was an app, or I don't know if it was new. It was the first time I had seen it. It was called Bump, and it was at South by Southwest, and everybody was running around doing like Bump to share contact info. And that has now become sort of a standard feature where iPhones will do that. If you put your iPhones on top of each other, it will prompt you to like send your contact info across, and then you can give somebody your phone number just by kind of touching phones, which is, you know, great. But at the time with Bump, it was like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. Like, was it practical? Absolutely not. Did it only make sense in the context of a conference where you were going to be around dozens and dozens of new people and would need to trade information? Like, yeah, 100%. But holy crap, it was so much fun. Like it was this moment, right, where everybody was doing it. And I don't think any of us at that conference ever used it again. But it was so much fun for that moment. And I love that idea of, you know, even if you don't necessarily want to build and maintain a native app forever, if you're going to a conference, if you're going to a some kind of special event, you can do fun stuff like that has notifications. It's got the NFC, like the ability to interact with people around you through the native capabilities of the phone. I really like that kind of stuff. Like it makes me really happy, and finding ways to lower the barrier to building an app that's just kind of just for fun. I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. That's one of the things that really impressed me on the first times I wrote Tauri. And right now, VidConf is happening, and I have a talk there that we're talking about Taurify, which is a
Mm.
nice. That's Daniel. That's the one of the creators of Tauri. So yeah, and we created a CLI called Taurify, which you can run with one command and turn any single page application into a Tauri app. And with that, yeah, it's
That's not it.
Taurify.app. No, that's not
Horrified
it.
dot app.
Wow.
This one?
So this one, yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, so this one is like it's still like very early stages. But what happens with this is if you run this command like Taurify in the root of your project in your single page application or any web application, it's going to wrap it inside a Tauri app and put your app inside. And then with
Mm.
that, I didn't tell you yet, but Tauri can expose the Tauri invoke methods to the window, or you can even inject that into your API. You can use the JavaScript APIs from your app, so you can have your app checking if they are in the context of a Tauri, and then use the native APIs.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
So
so
in
so I
that
could do
case, you
something
can even
like,
have one build.
yeah, like I could have my website, and then on my website I can check to see if I'm in the Tory environment, and if
Yep.
so, I can show additional capabilities like the NFC or something like that,
Yep.
and otherwise run it like a web app. That's
Yep.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
So it just opens up for like a bunch of different opportunities.
hmm.
And I mean, and then there are some stuff because Starify is also kind of a service. There are some stuff that allows you to do that. To even have something that's very feels very web to me. When you have a build like for a website, you have builds that go super fast. That's like takes, I don't know, 30 seconds, 40 seconds. If it goes a minute, it's too much for a website.
Mm.
And let me show you in our little app that we just created. I'm
Yeah.
gonna beam you a link
Okay.
for the latest action that I ran, and then you can see for how long it ran. Um, so this is what happens if you go like show all jobs over here. Yeah, it ran for 15 minutes because macOS latest goes for 3, Linux goes 11, and Windows goes 14. So, like from a web developer standpoint, that's an eternity. Like
Hmm.
if you have like a 15-minute cycle for CI/CD,
Right.
and because Taurify knows that you're not like recompiling Rust, it can skip that, and then we use something called over-the-air updates, which allow us to just yank out your JavaScript frontend and put the new one in. So then the builds
Mm.
go as fast as a web. Um, and that to me is like kind of mind blowing because then you can have something like in a monorepo, you have like an NX plugin or something like that. And from your CI, you can say, oh, I'm building this website into all these other platforms as well. And you don't need to know about it. That's really cool to me, at
That's
least.
that's very cool. And I think, it's definitely one of those things that as you build out a company, as you start building out a service, there are going to be reasons that it would be nice to have a native app. And, there's business reasons, like, native apps have like you can get somebody to come into a native app. It's like really good from a like next investor deck update, right? But also just from a like utility standpoint, when you are building something and getting people faster access, like it works offline, it works, you can do NFC stuff with it. You have access to the native like I guess the web is getting better and better at native stuff like cameras and
Yeah.
gyroscope and stuff like that. But it is nice to have. You get the deep links, you get the integrations. That all that stuff is really interesting to me. And if it's not like hire 10 more people to build that app, to build the native apps,
Yeah.
that sort of gets interesting where now I'm not as stressed about it. I'm thinking like, oh well, maybe it is worth considering if all it takes is being thoughtful about which of these features we want to add and adding some logic into the front end that says like if we're in a Tauri environment, then expose this extra stuff. That's interesting, right? And knowing that I can update without having to have somebody whose entire job is dealing with the Apple Store submission process, like stuff like that is really it changes the math for me because prior to talking to you about this, if you had asked me about native apps, my answer would have been an immediate like it was not possible for me, right? And now seeing this, I don't know that I have a good enough reason to build an app, but I don't think I would hard nope it out of like fear of being able to ship
Yeah.
consistently, which is
I
I
I
think that's cool.
yeah, I'm 100% there with you. Like, is it like something as easy as shipping a website? No. It still has its difficulties, it still has its challenges. There's still things you need to learn, like code signing and like some concerns about security and like permissions and so on. But the entry barrier is way lower with something like that, and I think that's very appealing if you have like an early product or a startup where you don't need to hire a whole team for it. At some point you can
Hmm.
just find your market fit, find like your audience, and see if that works. So that's one of the things that excites me a lot about it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's always the magic of this space is can we lower the barrier to entry for somebody to show up and try, be
Yeah.
competitive. Like the thing that I've always loved about the web is that you don't have to have a $1 million budget to build something that can be really successful.
Yeah.
And so applying that similar democratization of leverage, I guess, to building native apps feels good. It feels like something that it opens a lot of doors. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to learn about this. I'm excited that this is available to folks and I don't know. What do you think, chat? You gonna go build some native apps? What do you got in mind? I think they're too busy having a pun off in the comments. But
Yeah,
um,
people. Yeah. So the thing is, another thing about Tauri that you might have noticed from your chat is that the community is not only like super open, but they are also very, very passionate. As you can see, they just jumped in and they're like answering questions and stuff like that. So that's usually how it goes down when somebody comes into Discord and wants to help and wants some help. So yeah, if any of you are watching the chat and wants to get started with Tori, you're very much welcome. You definitely belong in our Discord. If you're not a Rust developer, more so, come in. Everybody can help. I'm not a Rust developer. They have tons of patience with me. They answer all my questions. Um, yeah, and every now and then I'm stressing the limits and I'm trying to get my web brain to work in Tauri. So, and they haven't kicked me out yet. So,
I love it. I love it. No, I think that's it's good. It's good. I think to have team members who aren't necessarily experts, right? Like I always thought that one of the major strengths of having people on teams is you want people who bring in different perspectives and bringing in a web developer into a team that is Rust experts trying to make something that's friendly to web developers, like that seems like a good call because if I already knew how Rust works, I wouldn't need the web development framework. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I would just be writing the Rust. So no, I think I love the approach. I love the mindset, and I'm happy to see that it's it does feel like something that is approachable for me, who has historically had a hard time actually getting through any Rust learning, just through time limitations.
yeah,
So okay, we're coming up on time here. So why don't I ask while we're in the browser here, where should people go if they want to learn more? Like we've shared the Tauri site. I'll throw that up again.
Mm-hmm.
I've shared your Twitter. I'll share that again.
Oh, thanks.
Where else? Where else should people be going if they want to take next steps here?
So the Tauri Discord is always very active. So I think it's Discord GG/Tauri.
Looks
Oh,
like
it's over there. Yeah. So
got a link there.
that one is very active, and everybody is there pretty much all the time. We make a few jokes about one or two of our folks over there. Like Fabian Lars is a beast answering support questions uh, and any kind of things from people. There's also this repository called Awesome Tauri, which is maintained by the Tauri folks as well. So yeah, this first one. So this one has a list of awesome resources, apps examples, and things like that. If you're looking for something that you might want, if you're looking for uh, previous work that has been done with Tori, that's a nice place to be at. Um, and yeah, I think those two places and the docs are definitely the places to go. Um, give that a scroll.
This is good. So yeah, we've got a few tutorials here. We've got a ton of templates, which is very cool. I like seeing lots of templates.
I mean, even I created my own template right now. I just shipped the CLI for
Nice.
it. There's all the bells and whistles that I mentioned about Tauri Spectre there. I plugged it in. So if you like solid start, and if you want to get your feet wet with Tauri, you can use that one. It brings like the profile release, it connects the debugger, everything like that's open source and free, and so on. And then you can get started. You can leverage it to write web apps and then go deeper into Rust. In this
Very
case.
cool. And then these are the example apps. So this is all very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is exciting. I like this a lot. I think this is really fun. I always appreciate a good list like this, just to help me get my head around what people are doing with it, what's possible. Also cool that you flag the ones that are closed source so that I know, like, if I want to see how it works, I'm not going to look on that one. I'm going to look at one of these ones, you know? So this is super helpful. And this is a longer list than I expected, to be completely honest. So that's super cool. It's great to see that there's so much out there, so many examples out there, and very cool to see that you've got over 200 contributors just to the resources list. Like that's pretty awesome. It really points to what you were saying earlier about having a very active and sort of
It is active, and it's like on a very fast growth curve. Like if you look at like the previous state of JS survey, I think it was like 3 months ago. It had a bunch of like interest, it had a bunch of like user satisfaction and so on. And what I feel like I started like I went like I did a nosedive in Tauri about a year or so ago, and I see things getting more and more agitated on our Discord. I did a few streams there on my YouTube channel and so on. I like to play around with that, recording some videos. And the feedback that I get from people getting curious about it is amazing. So it is a good moment to get started, especially with the V2 release.
Yeah.
So
Well, very
it
cool.
is an exciting time.
Super exciting. Thank you very much for spending some time here. Let me do a quick shout out again to our caption and our sponsors. We've had Amanda here from White Coat Captioning, taking down all the words that we've said today, and it's human captioning. It's just great. It's so much better than the robo captions that make up new words for what the names of tools are and stuff. That is made possible by Netlify. So let's drop a link to Netlify in the chat. Thank you, Netlify. Click that link to let them know that I sent you. And then we've been pair programming with Tuple all day, and that's how Atila's been drawn on the screen. That's how we've had shared copy paste buffers, like all sorts of fun stuff like that. So again, give it a try. Click on that link and let them know I sent you. I've linked to Attila. Attila, what else? What do we want to do here? What do you got any parting words before we start sending everybody on their way?
Man, what I have to tell you is I just need to thank you for being this awesome host. I knew it would be an amazing experience. I knew it had a blast, but you exceeded my expectations. So thanks a lot. You're such a nice guy to work with and to talk to.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and likewise, thank you so much for coming on. I think you did an amazing job here, and thanks to everybody on the chat for asking great questions and hanging out today. We do have one question because VConf is going on. When is your VConf talk?
So my VidConf talk must have gone online a few minutes ago, and I know that there's 2 cycles. So it went live the first time, and then 12 hours later it goes again. It premieres again. So mine was towards the end of the schedule on the native apps. So I think I'm the only one that's talking about Tauri in this case. Yeah, that's me.
So it looks like that is going to happen in about 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's the replay or if that's the first play, but yeah, it looks like this will be live in about 2 hours. It is going now. If you're not already signed up, go sign up and get in. It looks like there's all sorts of good stuff. I mean, look at this list of names. This is an all-star lineup. So much cool stuff happening in the Vite space. We've had Vite on the show before in multiple different iterations. It's powering most of the frameworks out there. At this point, I think the last holdout is the only framework left is Next that's not using Vite under the hood in some capacity. So this is a good way to see what's happening in that community and really kind of the underlying power that's driving the whole JavaScript ecosystem at this point. So yeah, with that, I think we're going to call this one a wonderful success. I had a great time. I hope you had a great time. And do make sure you go check out the schedule because we've got great stuff coming up. We've got Matt Pocock coming on next week. We've got Bree coming on the week after. And I'm going to do a quick shout out to the Sanity team. We're doing a whole wild thing where I'm going to be doing a live version of the Web Dev Challenge. If you're in San Francisco on October 23rd and you want to build something silly with me and take the Web Dev Challenge, we're going to be doing it. We've got room for, I think, 50 people, maybe 100 people. So seats are limited. Make sure you register for the event. It's going to be hanging out with me, Kenzie Dodds, Aaron Francis, Charlie Gerard, and Demetrius Clark. We're all going to be, building, having a good time. There's going to be food. There's going to be drinks. There's a party afterward. You can meet the Sanity team. It'll be a good time. So head on out there. And all right, y'all, I think that's going to be it. So Attila, thank you again for spending some time with us tonight. Last chance. Anything to say to the chat before I end this thing?
Thanks for coming and for helping me out with your questions and answering your own questions, because that was awesome. And yeah, see you around. And yeah, you guys were also awesome.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Thank you so much.
Bye.
We will see you.